If you grew up in the 1970s, you probably remember a childhood that felt wide open, sun-soaked, and just a little bit wild. The world seemed bigger back then, and the rules seemed fewer. Kids roamed the neighborhood until the streetlights flickered on, played with things no modern parent would allow, and lived in a time when freedom came wrapped in scrapes, risk, and pure adventure. Today, we're flipping through that old photo album of memories and taking a warm, honest look back. Today we're looking at 10 things kids could do in the 70s that would be illegal now. 1. Riding in cars without seatbelts. Back in the 70s, most kids never even touched a seatbelt. Many cars didn't have rear belts at all, and nobody thought twice about it. Kids jumped into the back seat like it was a tiny playground on wheels. Some even laid across the rear window shelf during long drives. It felt exciting because the car felt like a moving room instead of a safety capsule. Parents were relaxed, thinking slow roads and strong steel cars were enough protection. But accident numbers told a different story. Throughout the decade, safety groups pushed for stronger laws as crashes increased nationwide. By the late 80s, seatbelt laws were common in every state. What once felt like harmless fun became recognized as dangerous. The freedom of moving around the car disappeared as child safety seats became required. Looking back, it's amazing how normal it all felt. Today, it's a reminder of how much the world has changed, and how childhood comfort sometimes came at the cost of real safety. 2. Trick-or-treating completely unsupervised. Halloween in the 70s felt like a town-wide adventure. Kids put on plastic masks, grabbed pillowcases, and wandered blocks away without an adult in sight. Every porch light felt like a beacon calling you to more candy. Parents trusted neighbors and neighborhoods trusted parents. Stories about danger were mostly considered urban legends, but by the late 80s and early 90s, fears about tampered candy and stranger danger began to grow. News reports, even exaggerated ones, shifted the mood. Communities worried more about safety, and many towns added rules or organized group events. What used to be a carefree night became a guided activity. Kids lost the feeling of independence that came with roaming alone in the dark. The magic changed, but the memories stayed. Today, the idea of sending kids out alone on Halloween feels unthinkable, but back then, it was simply part of growing up. 3. Playing on metal playgrounds in the summer heat. If you ever slid down a metal slide on a July afternoon, you remember the sting. Playgrounds in the 70s were a mix of steel pipes, wooden beams, and asphalt floors. Kids climbed tall monkey bars that felt like they reached the sky. The heat turned every surface into a toaster, but nobody seemed to mind. These playgrounds felt bold and adventurous, almost like training grounds for bravery. But injuries were common: broken arms, burns, or even falls from high platforms. By the 1990s, new safety standards arrived. Schools and parks removed towering jungle gyms and replaced hard ground with rubber mats. Metal slides gave way to plastic ones. Today, many of those old structures would violate multiple safety codes. They disappeared because the world decided children shouldn't get hurt so easily. Still, for many, those sizzling metal slides remain a symbol of fearless childhood. 4. Buying fireworks at the local store. In the 70s, fireworks weren't just for adults. Kids could walk right into corner shops and buy small firecrackers without much trouble. It felt thrilling to hold a sparkler or light a tiny fuse. Families gathered in driveways for informal fireworks shows. The rules were loose and the risks didn't feel serious. But accidents and injuries piled up across the country. Fire departments raised alarms as more kids were hurt each summer. With new regulations, many states restricted or banned the sale of fireworks to minors. Stores stopped selling certain types altogether. Today, kids watching fireworks is still common, but buying them is not. What once felt like a simple childhood joy is now tied to strict laws. The old days of running around with firecrackers in your pocket are long gone, replaced by a safer, though less exciting, 4th of July. 5. Riding bikes without helmets. A bike was a kid's first ticket to freedom. In the 70s, helmets were rare and mostly seen on professional racers. Kids pedaled fast down hills, skidded on gravel, and raced friends without any head protection. It felt wild and wonderful. The wind in your hair wasn't just a saying, it was the real experience. But as head injuries became a growing concern, doctors and safety groups pushed for helmet laws. By the early 1990s, many states began requiring children to wear helmets. Studies showed major drops in injuries, and the movement spread. Today, riding bareheaded is seen as reckless, and in some places, illegal for minors. The freedom of the open road changed, but the memories of carefree rides still linger. Those long summer days on a bike remain one of the purest images of 70s childhood. 6. Drinking straight from the garden hose. Nothing tasted better on a hot summer afternoon than cold hose water. Kids ran around yards, turned on the spigot, and drank straight from the green rubber hose. Nobody questioned it. Neighborhood water felt safe, and the hose felt like part of the backyard adventure. But over time, researchers warned that many hoses contained chemicals not meant for drinking. Lead, plasticizers, and bacteria became concerns. New standards changed what hoses were made of. Parents became more cautious, and kids were told to drink from proper cups. Today, many hoses carry warnings against drinking directly from them. The habit faded quietly, replaced by bottles and filtered water. It's a small change, but one that marks how differently we look at everyday objects now. Still, that first sip of hose water is a memory many people never forget. 7. Riding in the back of pickup trucks. For many kids, riding in the back of a pickup truck felt like flying. You sat on the wheel well or leaned against the cab as the wind rushed past. Back roads felt like your own amusement park ride. In rural areas, it was almost a tradition. But serious accidents happened far too often. Kids were thrown out during sharp turns or sudden stops. By the late 80s and early 90s, states began passing laws banning children from riding in truck beds. Safety campaigns showed how dangerous it really was. Today, it's illegal in many places and heavily restricted in others. That old feeling of wide-open freedom has mostly disappeared. But for those who lived it, the memory still brings a smile, and maybe a shiver. Walking to school alone at a young age. In the 70s, kids walked to school as early as 6 or 7. Sidewalks were full of backpacks and lunch boxes bobbing up and down. Parents trusted kids to follow the route and look out for cars. The world felt safe, or at least safer. But rising fears in the 80s changed everything. High-profile missing child cases captured national attention. Neighborhoods felt less secure, and parents became more protective. Today, many states have laws about the minimum age a child can be left unsupervised. Walking to school alone at a young age is discouraged or even illegal in some areas. The independence kids once enjoyed slowly faded, yet those old walks to school remain a warm memory of simpler days. 9. Playing outside all day with no check-ins. A summer day in the 70s often started with a screen door slamming behind you and ended when streetlights came on. Kids roamed parks, creeks, woods, and fields with no phone, no watches, and no contact. It felt like a whole world belonged to you. Parents believed fresh air and freedom were good teachers. But times changed as neighborhoods grew, traffic increased, and fears about safety spread. Child neglect laws became stricter and more broadly interpreted. Today, letting a child wander all day without supervision can bring legal trouble. Organized playdates replaced spontaneous adventures. Still, that feeling of being gone all day is one of the most vivid memories of 70s childhood. It was independence in its purest form. 10. Buying cigarettes for parents. It sounds strange today, but in the 70s, many kids walked into corner stores with a note from a parent. The cashier handed over a pack of cigarettes without a second thought. It was seen as a harmless errand. Smoking was common, and the dangers were less publicized. But by the late 80s and 90s, research made the risks clear. Laws tightened, and selling tobacco to minors became strictly regulated. Stores faced heavy fines, and the practice vanished almost overnight. What once felt like a simple chore is now unthinkable. The shift shows how much our understanding of health has grown. It's a reminder that some changes, even if they erase old traditions, make life better. The 1970s gave kids a kind of freedom we rarely see today. Messy, risky, and unforgettable. Some of these changes made the world safer, and some simply changed the flavor of childhood. But the memories remain like old snapshots tucked into an album we love to revisit. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories from the past. Let's keep the nostalgia alive, one rewind at a time.